Burnout doesn't always look like a collapse. Sometimes burnout looks like competence. Sometimes it looks like being reliable. Just because you can carry it doesn't mean it isn't heavy. Just because you haven't fallen apart doesn't mean the pace is sustainable. Because if you can't sustain it, it isn't really success.
Hard lessons and real wins. Hosted by me, Nick Visoky. All right, let's get into it.
All right, let's talk about something that a lot of people don't notice until they're already deep in it. Burnout. And the tricky thing about burnout is, it usually doesn't show up with flashing lights, dramatic music, and a tiny warning label that says, "Congratulations, your nervous system is about to file for unemployment." It doesn't happen like that. Burnout sneaks up on you, slowly, quietly, one extra hour at a time, one more responsibility at a time, one more "I'll just push through" at a time, one more season of pretending you're fine when you're absolutely not fine. And then one day, you look around and realize you're not just tired, you're different. You're irritated by things that never used to bother you. You don't enjoy the things you used to enjoy. You're physically present, but mentally, you're somewhere else. You're smiling at people while your soul is somewhere trying to negotiate a leave of absence. And that's when burnout gets dangerous. Because by the time most people recognize it, they already normalized it. They already called it discipline. They already called it responsibility. They already told themselves, this is just what success costs. But sometimes it isn't success. Sometimes it's a slow leak. And if you ignore that slow leak long enough, eventually something breaks. Now, I've had different versions of burnout in my life. Some were emotional, some were business related, some were from trying to force paths that looked right on paper but felt wrong in my body. And some were self-inflicted because apparently I enjoy learning lessons the expensive way. It's a gift. Not always a profitable gift, but a gift. One of the biggest burnout lessons came from owning the bakery. My wife was making cupcakes at home, and I'm not gonna lie, they were excellent. Not just family says, they're good because they love you good. No, actually good. The kind of good where people say, you should really sell these. Then your brain starts firing on all cylinders and starts doing the math. You start thinking, how hard could this be? We rent a space, we sell cupcakes, we hire some people. People are happy. We become proud business owners. Simple. And that's how business usually starts. With confidence, ambition, and just enough ignorance to make the worst decision look like destiny. So we jumped in. We built the business, we opened the bakery, and for a while it worked. Cupcakes were a hit. People loved them. The business had momentum. And from the outside, that looked like a win. But here's what people don't always understand. A business can be working and still be eating at your life. Both things can be true. And our bakery was inside the mall. And I know what you're thinking. Nick, the mall? What's that? Look, it was, I would say, give or take 13 years ago. It was different times back then. With the way things are moving now, you could even say it's a century-old business. Anyway, if you've never run a business inside a mall, let me explain in a way that's easy to understand. The mall owns your soul. If the mall is open, you're open. If the mall says these are the hours, those are not suggestions, those are commandments. And we worked constantly, late nights, early mornings, 7 days a week. No real vacations, no real reset. We came home late, slept for what felt like 12 minutes, and then be back at the bakery at 3 or 4 in the morning. And then you tell yourself it's normal because you're building something. You tell yourself, this is what it takes. And sometimes, yes, building something does require sacrifice. But here's where people get confused. Sacrifice and self-destruction are not the same thing. And burnout usually begins when you stop being able to tell the difference. At first, burnout doesn't feel like a burnout. Let me explain. It feels like being busy. It feels like ambition. It feels like doing what needs to be done. You say things like, it's just a busy season. I just need to get through this month. Once things calm down, I'll rest. Once we hire help, it'll be better. Once we make more money, it'll feel worth it. And sometimes, yes, that's true. But sometimes that busy season becomes your entire life. And now you're not in a season anymore. You're in a system you built, a system you feed, a system that needs more from you than you actually have to give. And the scary part is, from the outside, people might still think you're doing great because burnout doesn't always look like a collapse. Sometimes burnout looks like competence. Sometimes it looks like being reliable. Sometimes it looks like being the person who always has to figure it out. Or sometimes it looks like smiling at customers while inside you're thinking, I would really like to sit in complete silence for approximately 6 business months. And that's the part I want somebody to hear. Just because you can carry it doesn't mean it isn't heavy. Just because you're functioning doesn't mean you're okay. Just because you haven't fallen apart doesn't mean the pace is sustainable. That's one of the hardest things for driven people to accept. Because if you're capable, people will keep handing you more. And if you're responsible, you keep taking it. And if you're proud, you won't want to admit that something is breaking. So you keep going, you keep performing, you keep showing up, but slowly your personality starts changing. Now you're less patient, you're less present, you're less creative, you're not excited anymore. You're just managing. You stop dreaming and start surviving. And survival mode is useful during a crisis, but it's a terrible place to build a life. See, when our daughter was born, the bakery hit me differently. Before that, I could convince myself that the grind was part of the process. But once we became parents, I started seeing the cost differently. It wasn't just the hours anymore. It was family time. It was energy. It was presence. It was my wife giving out and just throwing in the towel because the business required so much. It was realizing that ambition can become expensive in ways money doesn't measure. And that's when I started to understand something. Burnout isn't only about being tired. It's about what tiredness is costing you. Because if you're tired from doing something meaningful and you can recover, that's one thing. But if you're tired all the time and there's no recovery and the thing you're building keeps taking more than it gives back, that's something else. That's not just hard work. That's a warning. And look, I'm not saying every difficult season means you should quit everything, sell your belongings, and start living the van life. That's not the message here. Although honestly, some of those people do look peaceful. A little too peaceful. Like they know something that we don't know. But that's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is this. You have to learn the difference between hard and harmful. Because hard can build you, hard can discipline you, hard can sharpen you. Hard can teach you who you are. But harmful drains you, harmful disconnects you, harmful turns your life into something you have to recover from. And if you're not careful, you'll call both of them the same thing. You'll call both of them the grind, but they're not the same thing. Eventually, we decided not to renew the lease. We closed the bakery. And that was complicated because it wasn't just a simple failure. That's what made it so hard. If the business was terrible, the decision would have been easier. But it wasn't terrible. People liked it. Customers came in. The concept worked. There was pride, but there was also exhaustion. And sometimes the hardest thing to walk away from isn't something that failed. It's something that worked but cost too much. That's a different kind of grief. Because now you're not just closing a business, you're closing a version of yourself. The version that thought, if this works, I'll feel fulfilled. The version that thought if people liked it, it must be right. The version that thought if it's successful, I should be able to keep doing it. That's not always true, because success without sustainability is just delayed burnout with better branding. And honestly, I learned that the hard way. So here's the lesson. Burnout doesn't usually start when everything falls apart. It starts way earlier. It starts when you ignore the small signs, when you stop resting and you call it commitment, when you stop feeling joy and you call it maturity, when you stop having boundaries and call it being responsible, and when you stop listening to your body because your calendar is louder. That's where it starts. And if you keep ignoring those signs, life has a way of increasing the volume. First it whispers and then it taps on your shoulder. Then it starts sending you physical symptoms. Then your nervous system walks in like a landlord with paperwork. And at some point, you have to stop and ask, is this actually sustainable? Not impressive, not respectable, not productive, sustainable. Because if you can't sustain it, it isn't really success. And I know that sounds simple, but simple doesn't always mean easy. Because a lot of people are living inside lives they're afraid to question. They're afraid to question the job, the business, the schedule, the version of success they've been chasing. Because once you question it, you might have to change something. Change is scary, but so is staying at a life that's slowly draining you while you keep pretending everything is fine. That's scary too. And a lot of people don't realize they're burned out because they're waiting for some dramatic breakdown. But burnout is often quieter than that. Sometimes burnout is sitting in the driveway for 10 extra minutes because you don't want to go inside yet. Sometimes it's staring at your phone because you're too tired to answer one normal message. Sometimes it's being surrounded by people and still feeling alone. And sometimes it's realizing you haven't felt like yourself in a long time. That matters. And you should know that you matter enough to pay attention to that. So if you're watching this and you feel like something is off, I want you to ask yourself these 3 questions, not 53. Because if you're already burned out, the last thing you need is a homework assignment that requires a binder. First question, what is this costing me? Not just financially, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and mentally. What is the real cost? 2, can I recover from this? Not can I survive it? Can I recover? Can I sleep? Can I think clearly? Can I be present? Can I still enjoy my life while carrying this? And 3rd, am I building something sustainable or am I just proving I can suffer? See, that one is personal because a lot of driven people confuse suffering with progress. They think if it hurts, it must mean they're earning something. And sometimes sacrifice is part of the growth, but suffering by itself isn't a strategy. is just suffering. And you don't need to destroy yourself to prove you're serious. Now, here's the part where I want to be careful. I'm not anti-work. I'm not anti-ambition. I'm not saying chase comfort and avoid difficult things. That's not me. I believe in work. I believe in discipline. I believe in building, and I believe in doing hard things. But I also believe your life should still belong to you. And that's where burnout becomes a teacher, a painful teacher. One of those teachers who doesn't curve the test and probably drinks a black coffee while judging your excuses, but still a teacher. Burnout teaches you where your boundaries are missing. It teaches you where your identity got too attached to performance. It teaches you where you confused approval with alignment. It teaches you that everyone thinks I'm doing well. Doesn't mean I'm actually okay. And if you listen early enough, you can adjust before life forces you to. That's the goal. Not to avoid hard work, to build a life where hard work has meaning and the cost of that hard work makes sense. So, if you're in that season right now where you're exhausted, I don't want you to immediately shame yourself. Don't say I should be stronger. Don't say other people have it worse. Don't say I just need to push harder. Maybe the answer isn't pushing harder. Maybe the answer is getting honest. Maybe the answer is admitting that the way you're carrying your life right now isn't working anymore. And that doesn't make you weak. It makes you aware. There's a difference. Because awareness is where change starts. And sometimes the strongest thing you can do isn't to keep going at the same pace. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stop lying to yourself about what that pace is doing to you. For me, the bakery taught me something I've carried into everything else. Business, trading, family, purpose, risk, all of it. Growth has to be sustainable. Because if the thing you're building destroys the people building it, something is wrong. That's true in business. That's true in careers. That's true in relationships. That's true in life. And it's very true when you're ambitious, because ambition without awareness can turn into a machine. And if you're not careful, you become the fuel. So here's what I want you to remember. Burnout doesn't happen all at once. It sneaks up on you. It starts with small compromises, small ignored signals, small moments where you'll say, I'll deal with it later. But later eventually becomes your life. And if your life is trying to tell you something, listen before it has to yell. Because real success isn't building something other people admire. Real success is building something you can actually live inside. Something that doesn't require you to disappear from yourself. Something that lets you work hard, but still breathe. Something that lets you grow, but not lose yourself in the process. That's the win. Not just making it look good from the outside, actually being okay on the inside. That's the part that really matters. So, if this helped you in any way, go ahead and hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, because this channel isn't about perfection. It's a channel about becoming. And I'll see you at the next one. Thank you for watching. Guess I'll have to take a personal day tomorrow.
A few moments later.
Turning now to this, the Pentagon releasing
A truce would see the reopening of
Hey you, are you tired? Yeah, it's 2 a.m. Are you tired of being tired? Yeah. Do you wake up exhausted? Exhausted at work, come home exhausted, and then stay up late because apparently that's the only free time you have? Yeah. Do small tasks feel personal? Yeah. Does opening your laptop feel like a threat? Yes. Have you ever stared into the refrigerator like it was going to explain your life choices? Oh my God, yes. Then congratulations, you may have a condition known as burnout. But don't worry, for just 10 easy payments of $499.99, you can order the Burnout Breakthrough Deluxe system. Wait, what? That's right, for only $5,000, we'll send you everything you need to finally admit what your body has been trying to tell you for months. Oh my God, just take my money already. With your order, you'll receive one cleaner you'll never use, a water bottle that'll say you got this, even though clearly you do not, and our exclusive guide, how to pretend you're fine while your soul is loading at 3%. I need all of that. But wait, there's more. Order now, it will include the Delayed Honesty bonus pack. It includes one mirror that you can finally say, maybe I'm not lazy, maybe I'm burned out. I knew it.
Hey, what's happening here? Why aren't you in bed?
Some idiot on TV said I have what's called burnout. Damn, I think he's right. Bae,
Yeah?
I'm not sure how to say this, so I'm just gonna say it anyway. I think I just put $5,000 on our credit cards.
You did what?
Yeah.
You did what?
Yeah, I told you we should have taken that vacation.